Greetings. There's a little extra pause there. Wasn't really going for dramatic effect, but there it is. Happy Tuesday as I'm recording this. But of course, happy whatever day it happens to be. I have here with us today Tannic by Amanda P. I was lucky enough to meet up with her and Yochai Gal at PAX Unplugged, and she gifted me a copy of her adventure in physical format. It's a nice kind of zine-sized digest, I guess. I can't ever remember if this is the A4, A5. I guess what is this? Dave, you probably know. Is this A5, A4? I don't know. It's the small, it's the classic zine size. I think not including the table of contents is about 23 pages. Nice kind of matte finish. I think it's matte. Yeah, 24 pages. Then there's some OGL stuff. Nice paper. I've got the PDF also, easier to go into. I know that it's on itch, and I know that she time to time will refresh the community copies out there, so you may be able to get it for the very, very reasonable price of nothing. I'm not sure how much it goes for normally. Okay, A5 is half the size of A4. A4 is close to letter size. Okay, so this must be A5 then, because I would guess this is half a letter size. If I took two of these and stacked them, or did this is probably about letter size. So okay, yeah, I know. It's it's the same size as Cairn. Same size as Cairn. It's kind of that zine standard, which I guess is A5. I don't have a banana or some kind of odd fruit or vegetable to put next to it to scale it. But if you're familiar with Cairn, it's the same size as Cairn, which I think is kind of zine standard, which I guess is A5, but I can never remember such things. I don't think I have too much to say. Yeah. Oh yeah. So I met her at PAX Unplugged. Very nice. Handed me off this copy, and of course, it's my to my utter shame that it's taking me this long to get to some of this stuff on stream. I still have a bunch of kind of backlog of things to get to from PAX, but this one was kind of on my mind, so I figured I'd start here. Hey, Death Cap Stories, how are you? Okay, shall we begin? This is a point crawl forest adventure for use with Cairn, designed to use with old school essentials. It's basically it's system neutral, but the stat blocks are kind of formatted for Cairn or OSE/BX, basically. Designed by Amanda P, edited by Yochai Gal and Symbolic City. All imagery created by Amanda P are adapted from the public domain. Oh, USDA Forestry Service. I'll have to check that out. And we have some special thanks. We got a table of contents. Now we get into it. What is this adventure? Tannic is a 1 to 3 is a level 1 to 3 system neutral adventure with stats provided for Cairn and basic expert. It can be completed in 1 to 2 sessions. And the summary is 3 young adults go missing during a summer festival. They were last seen camping in the woods to prove their courage. The village elders hire the adventurers to bring them home safely. That Cap Story says Cairn is really easy to port stuff to, in their opinion. I haven't tried it, but yeah, I mean, I really like Cairn, and I like the preview, which I'll have to check in to see if there's, because I have a preview. Because when I met Amanda and Yochai, he handed me a copy of the preview doc for Cairn, which I've shown on the channel, I think already. A preview for Cairn 2.0, I guess, and then she showed me Tannic, and I haven't actually done kind of an in-depth look at Cairn at 2.0, but I should probably check in to see if there's a more recent PDF anyway. I'm not sure. I haven't been following it. I'm really bad on following the developments on all this stuff, and so apologies if there's been all kinds of movement and I'm just blissfully unaware of any of it. What's the situation? Since days of old, the village of Tannic, sitting precariously on the edge of woods and sea, has celebrated the summer equinox with an elaborate festival full of dancing and celebration, which draws visitors from miles around. During this fortnight of festivities, young villagers prove their worth, prove their courage. Just reading words that aren't even near, aren't even aren't even there. Young villagers prove their courage through camping deep in the forest. For many years, this ritual has proceeded without incident except mosquito bites and broken bones. Grave misfortune struck this year. 3 days ago, uh, three Utes, Osric, Flora, and Astrid, failed to return from their midsummer jaunt beneath the pines. Peregrine the woodsman led multiple search parties turning up tracks, strange signs, and confusion, but not else. Desperate, the village elders turn to you for assistance in locating the missing young adults, offering a precious local relic and money. All right, so there's our pitch, basically. And in terms of this is a 1 to 2 session type of venture, it seems like this would be really great for, I guess, a 1 or 2 shot or kind of a maybe a maybe a again, I have no idea on the scale, but I'm guessing if she's saying 1 to 2 sessions, we're talking 4 to 8 hours. So maybe if you had a 6 hour thing, and we'll see. But it seems like you could just jump right into it, right? You can just start this off as like, hey, you've been hired, kind of deal. If you don't want to get into the wandering around the village looking for work kind of thing. Here, I shall take a break and have some spindrift for the working man. Still waiting on that sponsorship, spindrift. Any day now. How can I include it in my campaign? The simplest inclusion would probably be your characters go on vacation to a local beachside village on the edge of of forest and sea. While enjoying themselves at a local summer festival, they are drawn into a dangerous forest quest. This adventure can be run as a one shot for a 3 to 4 hour session, but could extend up to 2 sessions depending on how forest exploration pans out and how much meandering the adventures do. Okay, so maybe this actually probably would fit into a one shot, and that's a nice if you need kind of an extended reason of like why is my character here? Then there you are. You're out on vacation and you happen to be is there a doctor in the house? Is there an adventurer on the beach? And you raise your hand, and then you're I don't know. I was gonna say shanghaied into service, but drafted maybe is a better word, or they just hire you. The greater context. 3 centuries ago, a minor royal family held dominion over the Tannic forest. Through political machinations, they were deposed, and their heir, Prince Sebastian, was entombed alive in the family mausoleum, while his close friends and comrades escaped or were slain. Over time, minor tectonic events forced the majority of the structure underground, and the forest erased most traces except the small tomb entrance. Okay, so that's our long time ago now. 50 years ago, villagers diverted a small creek to harvest bog iron for smelting. Oh, a nice touch. Over the ensuing years, the water slowly eroded the ancient tomb seals, causing the prince's anguish to spread as magical corruption. Very nice. Now, 4 days ago, three village youths, I don't know, it was youth. Is the plural of youth? Youth? 'Cause I know she's done that twice, so I imagine there's a reason. One, I would have thought maybe that's a typo, but now I'm thinking is that a thing where you just say youth instead of youths? Trying to say it like Joe Pesci and my cousin Vinny, these two youths. 4 days ago, three village youth, I guess, Osric, Flora, and Astrid went camping on the Tannic Trek. They found the tomb while exploring, called by the prince's enchanting song. 3 days ago, they failed to return. I always like these where it gives you like here in the deep past this event, then more recently this happened, and then very recently this happened. And why do I like that? Well, one, you get the nice little world building of there's this. If we were going to use this as a jump start into a campaign, well, we've got this concept of a deposed this kind of dominion that's changed hands or fallen into ruin or whatever, and maybe there's a storyline about that this family coming back or this kingdom minor earth activities, or she says tectonic events. Great. So that explains why the tomb is the way it is. And now we have this other part, which is also a nice touch. We have an idea of what the village is doing. They, at least part of their thing they do is they harvest bog iron, which is kind of nice. Could tie into things that your party might want. And then now we have a reason to, okay, well, this is what's changed. 'Cause I always like thinking about like what's changed? Why is this thing happening now? And here's a nice reason. It's not anybody's fault. It wasn't some mustache twirling villain doing it. It is just totally by accident this happened, but it has caused this kind of corruption through the prince's anguish, or spiritual anguish, I suppose. And then of course we have what's happened now. Well, they found it and presumably got lost inside, and theoretically the party will have to go find them. We have an overland map. All right, and nice, very nice little hex map here. So we have Tannic on one end, and the bog tomb all the way over here. So we know the party's gonna have to go bounce along, somehow make their way. We got the festival grounds that are over here at number two. Number three is the campsite, which was the last known location. 4 is a space of magical strangeness called Siegfried's Uneasy Rest. 5 is a place called Gustav's Folly. I like these notes. Gustav's Folly, an entrepreneurial failure and workplace accident. Indeed. And then we have the Bog Tomb. So we might be able to see here how. Well, okay, so I'm always a sucker for a hex map. It seems to be pretty easy to read and see everything. We have some different types of locations. So we imagine the party might start here, or maybe they'll start depending on how things shake out. Maybe they start if they get their job in the village proper, or they get their job at the festival grounds. You can see doing some back and forth. Okay, I got to go talk to their parents, their families, whatever. Then from one of these two hexes, most likely you'll hit one of these three hexes, depending on maybe they start in town and they head one way into this hex here and then in there, or maybe they head straight. But you have some different kind of methods, and then we have some things sprinkled around. But you are kind of guided, I assume, on somewhat, at least from three. I imagine we'll see that you're going to get some traces to the Gustav's Uneasy Rest. Presumably, then you maybe get pushed towards five, and then you have some choices and things to try to get to before you get to six. Some options, but it's not overwhelming, I guess we'll say, right? We have this kind of narrow, we're in an alley. We're in this sort of alleyway of hexes. And I think that you can see how kind of you're just trying to focus a little bit, right? No one's being railroaded here, but you can see there's kind of this focus from one end to the other. We have some rumors here. During the Midsummer Festival, young people go on a Tannic trek to prove their courage, staying overnight at the forest. I don't think that's a rumor. I think we pretty much know that to be true. But maybe depending on how you start the game, the party doesn't know that, so maybe you give it to them. Yeah, the second rumor is the forest was once owned by unlucky royals. Only the ruins of their stone hall remains. This would seem to be partly true, right? We know that there's a whoops, I got the wrong way. We know that there's a tomb, but maybe there's I don't see where they've put other ruins on the board here, but maybe that could be that confusion. There's a treasure vault in the bogs where the royals were buried with their riches. I think that's kind of true. I don't know if there's riches or not there, but definitely at least one of the royals is buried there. Gustav thought he could smell bog iron for cheaper than the iron mines out east. His furnace burned the village down. So that would be here, which would seem to be true. There's a mausoleum out under the pines. It's damaged enough. Now you could probably squeeze in and maybe find some treasure. That might be referring back to the same what do we call it? The bog tomb. So it's kind of true. Youth go on the Tannic trek because they believe that the forest is haunted. I think that's false, but it's partly true, and at least in terms of youth going on the Tannic trek. Art playing can be heard in the woods nowadays. It's very, very compelling. This sounds like it might be true. It's probably referring back to that song, but maybe it's not actually a harp. So maybe it's not all the way true. And finally, there's been sightings of a strange skeleton impaled on a tree, imploring people politely for aid. I kind of hope that one's true. I don't know if it is true. I kind of hope it is. I want to see that. Now we've got some characters. So we have the village elder Hans, the village elder Sigrid, and Peregrine the ranger. And then we have the young people. These are the three missing people: Osric, Flora, and Astrid. We get an appearance, we get their voice, and we get their drive. That's kind of nice. I think these are kind of, I want to say the drive, is that Cairn-ish? This Cap Story says, make it true, it's too good. Yeah, that's definitely too good to not be true. If that one's not true, I'll be a little bit sad, but I would totally, absolutely make it true in mind. Maybe Gustav, that would be Gustav, is there imploring people to aid with his smelting scheme, even though he was, burned or punished or otherwise gotten rid of. That might be kind of fun. So you have an appearance for each one, a voice for each one. Voice, wry, charming. Voice cracks. He's a kid or a young adult. Flora's voice is completely confident and resolute. You get some nice stuff. And then you have kind of this, right? What drives them? Friendship and love for their community. Osric's drive is to impress Astrid. And Astrid, who's Peregrine's child, boom, boom, is driven by curiosity. Awesome. So there we've got it. And I like these. And this is something that you know, I don't need a stat block, right? This is kind of what I need from the kids. And you get here, right? Stat is a level 0 human. Yeah, that's perfect. You could almost put it in just parenthetically because I really don't need to know much more. These are really the things I like. If you see them, what do they look like? This also could come into play if the party goes and starts questioning some people, and they say, "Well, what do these kids look like?" The people might say, "Well, there's no other kids in the forest," or they could say, "Oh, she's got Flora's got her black hair that she keeps in a neat braid tied back." Like, great, perfecto. And then if we need to look at kind of some dialogue, or we need to have some decisions on what they might do. We have the drive stuff. So all good in the hood from my perspective. And we have the same thing for the elders with some more relationships. So Vilder Eldridge Hans, whoops, I did it again. Vilder Eldridge Hans is married to village elder Sigrid and their parents Flora. And then really only Osric is, I guess, unclaimed by an elder. Okay, so now we have undead with unfinished business. So I guess this means that that skeleton is a true thing. So we've got Gustav, who appears as a dapper bearded phantasm in a sharp suit with burn marks, gray and white beard, and wiggly eyebrows. Excellent. And then uh, Sir Siegfried is another undead. Skeleton in a green surcoat embroidered with a stag. Voice is proud, courageous, like a knight out of a storybook. That's kind of a cool touch. And we have Prince Sebastian, who is the fallen prince. The let's see, this is the one, right? This is the prince that's trapped in the bog tomb, correct? I believe so. Right, because that's the only prince. We don't have any other princes. So this is the fallen prince, strange to see clearly through memory. His sorrowful song charms all who hear him, filling their hearts with devotion. Oh, that's nice. Oh, hey, David. Ask why am I not responding? It's just because I'm trying to read, David. So if I ever not respond to a comment, it's merely because I'm trying to get with the program here, which is reading through this. So hopefully you won't take offense if I don't respond specifically. Okay, we got our, what do they call that? A cast of characters, right? And now do we get what they are? So he's, hold on. So Gustav is a wraith, but he's a business ghost. Oh, that's a nice touch. Siegfried, second level fighter, and then we get Prince Sebastian's stats at the back of the book. Let's see, that's that. Village of Tannic. A sleepy village on the edge of a forest and sea, buzzes with activity as people of modest means flock to town each summer for seaside fun and respite. Appearance: wooden houses with thatched roofs, log buildings freshly painted white. Town square has a market area, the town well, iron sculpture of a sailor on a ship. Famed for its midsummer's festival, its local industries are woodworking, tanning, cranberry harvesting, and fishing. Local populace are friendly, hospitable, and diverse. The port village with a tourism economy. It's hospitable towards outsiders. It is secured by some town guards that mainly deal with rowdy drunks or the occasional wild animal. Local delicacies are fish stew, wild turkey sandwiches with cranberry relish. Well, I'm not a cranberry fan, but I'll take wild turkey sandwiches. Magnus says, "What system is this for, or is it pretty agnostic?" It is pretty agnostic, Magnus. It is statted out for Cairn and BX, but it's basically written as system agnostic. Let's see. And its main landmarks are a market offering leather goods, fishmongers, hunters, farm stands, woodworkers, commemorative items. It's got two inns, one more fancy than the other, and it has a large iron fisher sculpture that stands in the town square. This is really, again, I really like this for the village. I don't, look, I'm not against the maps. I'm not opposed to a map of some kind of the village, but I don't actually need it because I don't anticipate the navigation through the town to be an issue. Maybe in a big city, if I was, like I said, I've said in the past, if I was running a big urban adventure, then having a map might be important because I might want to run the city more like a dungeon in a way of you could get lost and you could end up in the wrong part of town, this, that, and the other. But by far for me, I'm more likely to be in kind of villages and smaller towns, especially starting out than some big city. And even then, by the time you get, for me anyway, by the time I get to the big city, I probably might not be interested in that sort of city as dungeon anyway. But really, I like this stuff. I like it. Tell me what it looks like. Who are the local population? Kind of okay. Attitude towards outsiders is important because the party are going to be outsiders. So are they? What's that kind of vibe like? Oh, we have some ideas. If the party decides to go to the inn and get something to eat, I have some things I can throw at them when they say, like, "Oh, I asked the I asked the barmaid, what do they recommend?" And I don't have to go like, "Oh, fish stew. Right? We're renowned for our fish stew," or maybe the fish stews at the working class place and maybe wild turkey sandwiches at the upper class place, or reverse it. I don't know, whatever. And then if they're looking for stuff, I can talk about what their market has, which inns they have. And granted, she didn't name the inns, but that's I know people love to have fun with inn names, but just knowing that one is kind of working class, one is um, one is more fancy is good too. Now it could be funny because we could go on the next page and there'll be a map of the town. But for me, like if there is nothing else, and I haven't pre-read this as usual, I didn't give my disclaimer right. I haven't pre-read this. I haven't gone through it. Amanda P doesn't know I'm even doing this right now, let alone having any idea of what I'm going to say about it. Right, all that stuff that I normally say. In other words, I'm on my own, and my words are my own. And so on the next page, there could very well be a map of the town. But like literally for me, that is perfect amount of information I need. Now, if there was more going on, then I would say supplement it. If there was something, if this adventure was coming back to the town or something important going on there, like some conspiracy, then yeah, I'd want some information about that part of it. But really, town is kind of the backdrop of sort of preparation, preparing for the adventure, right? It's not the adventure location, so this is all good for all the kind of flavor stuff that I'd want. On the next page, or I guess the adjoining page, we have the festival grounds. Approaching the festival grounds, you smell the pungent aroma of fried fish skewers and freshly baked hand pies. Oh, the hand pie. Barkers encourage passerbys to eat, to play, eat, and be merry, while children giggle at a puppet performance. So we have another appearance. We get to see what the festival grounds are like. We get some nice, right? Some smells. We have security again, so we can kind of paint that atmosphere for the party. If we have to worry about some shenanigans, whether it's the party doing shenanigans or just whatever, we can talk about that there are some local kind of militia, sort of toughs types. We've got some vacationers that we can sprinkle in as far as folks from out of town. We have some merchants. And then, oh, look at that. And then we have festival situations we could roll on a 10-sided die for if we want or need. And then we have oh, I see. This is wait, festival grounds. Oh, D10. For some reason, I read that like this was the ending of a word. I think it's that lowercase d threw me for a second. So D10, festival encounters. I'm not going to read all these, but I'll read a couple. We've got a youth is pocketing sweets and shiny things at the shop stalls. Guards appear to have noticed and are beginning to approach. The youth rushes over to the adventurers, yelling, "My parents, there you are!" All right, so that's like just a little funny. Uh, what do you want to call that? It's not mistaken identity, really. But I think the one maybe I think for this one, it'd be interesting if there's obviously you use the GM need to figure this out. Is does the youth connect to anything? It doesn't seem like it because the adventure doesn't seem to have anything to do with shenanigans in the town. So this is mostly just like a little bit of fun kind of beforehand. So I feel like you could skip these if you didn't want to, and maybe the party won't go around in the festival anyway, right? This could be something you pull out, just kind of a warm up, like that first 45 minutes or half an hour. As everyone's made their characters and done stuff. You could have this be sort of where everything comes together. Because if the guards then do end up carting you away as being responsible for a thieving child, that might be how that character gets put into the adventure, right? Oh, we're not going to put you in jail. We don't even have a jail, but we're going to send you. You're going to go on this quest, kind of thing. The adventurers see many strong people walking over to a banner that says "Mightiest in Tannic." Do any of them enter this contest of strength? Oh, so you can enter a contest of strength. There's a clumsy stilt walker, and then I'll read one from this other side. We have some bakers in the large outdoor kitchen that are making a giant pie. Flocks of hungry birds are dive bombing onto it, stealing pieces. The bakers scream in irritation, attempting to fight them off, but don't seem very effective. They look around wildly for aid. This is kind of intriguing because it doesn't have it's there's not I mean, the say obvious solution, right? So if the kid comes up and says, "Oh, my parents," obviously you have some pretty clear choices. Either you lie and help the kid out by saying like, "Oh, yes, we are his parents. So sorry. We'll reprimand him later and do whatever." Or you could say, "No, no," and go along your way. But that's kind of it, right? Okay. Or you could do the strength, doing the strength. Here with the bakers, I have no idea how one would get rid of the hungry birds. I mean, you could just, but it's really something like maybe the party's got an interesting spell. Maybe they just make an interesting use of some equipment or just some stuff that's laying around. It just seems like a fun kind of like, I'm not sure how you're going to solve this particular problem, but give it a shot. Give it a shot and see. And maybe you could get some free rations if you can help them out. Something like that. Into the Tannic forest we go. A little bit more Spindrift for the working man there. Striding below the tree boughs, the pine forest's sharp, fresh aroma fills your nostrils. The distinctive trickling of water from distant creeks and the occasional bird call reaches your ears, but otherwise, there's a stuffy silence. You may be holding your breath, but the forest is too. So a little bit of a tension there. Why is the forest holding its breath? Presumably, figuratively or literally. And we get some more just nice details. The forest floor is sandy. Has sandy acidic soil lined with pine needles and fallen leaves. So great, we get that sense of it. The pine and cedar trees sprout like haphazard columns, sheltering wild cranberries and blackberry bushes. So very nice visual. Old cobblestones stick out of the ground where ancient paved roads fell into disrepair. So we get some hints at what's going on here. We might have gotten the rumors about the old kingdom. We might not have, but we're getting a little bit more like, okay, that's also something that we could potentially follow. I don't know if it leads anywhere, but we've got. I mean, I would definitely say, they're old cobblestones. Can we see a roadway of some kind? Can we follow it? Where does it go? I'm not sure. Creeks flow throughout the landscape into bogs filled with tea-colored water, dyed by the abundant cedar trees. Nice detail with the tea-colored water. And then we've got D8 force encounters for travel through keyless hexes. So if we recall, we've got the hexes over here. So in any of the ones where it is not keyed, we would roll on the encounters, but then for the keyed hexes, we would use the keyed things. And there's what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 keyless hexes, and then the 6 keyed hexes. The campsite. Okay, so the campsite is number 1. Or I think, well, this one I have is the spread, so I actually can't do the pages separately. I keep forgetting I wanted to try that bit where I bring the map on there, but I forgot this time. Next time I'll try to get the map up there, but I believe the campsite was the first keyed location. Actually, I have it on my physical copy here. So we are now at. Let's see. Well, it's actually sorry, it's the third keyed location. So we're at location 3, the campsite. Flora, Osric, and Astrid made camp in a small clearing near a gentle, slow-moving pond. Toads croak in the distance, dragonflies erratically fly by. In any other context, the campsite would seem peaceful and idyllic, but the anxiety of their disappearance lingers, drowning out the peace and quiet of this resting place. There's a little bit of a metaphysics thing going on, right? Like they didn't leave the campsite knowing they weren't coming back, and yet either the fact that they didn't come back or whatever, just there's this little atmosphere of like something obviously is not quite right, even if it's not anything that you can detect because we know what happened to them. It's like when you come across something, right? And there's a weird thing of like, what happened to that thing later on. So now the thing that you found, even though it would seem innocent enough, now there's like a creepy quality to it. 3 bread rolls lie askew under a tall cedar tree, gray, rumpled, damp from morning dew and recent rain. Fallen leaves lie damp on top. Well, they didn't pack their stuff up before they left, which is interesting. Muddled footprints lead east and southeast, difficult to distinguish due to the recent rain. So we got 2 directions now we were given. We could try to go east or we can go southeast, which makes sense on the map because you can't remember we're in this kind of alley, this or valley maybe is right what it would be. So we can't go north from the campsite, but we can go basically south or southeast. The water skins lie open on the ground, filled with tea-colored water. So they had gotten some water, but they didn't take it with them, which might say something about their intentions. Fire pit is cold. Hidden in the bedroll, there's a letter from Osric to Astrid with many phrases crossed out. Seems to be a confession of feelings. Oh, but they didn't finish it. Oh, interesting. If you drink from the water skins, you hear undead for the next 4 hours. Drinkers hear mysterious harp song that compels them east for the next 4 hours, consuming their thoughts. Interesting. I wonder if this applies to all the water, since it seems like the tea-colored water. All these creeks have tea-colored water. So maybe that's an interesting effect. I really like it. The only thing I think is that the drinking becomes something that we don't often deal with in games. It kind of just gets subsumed unless you're in a desert setting where the water becomes super important. It's just kind of you just sort of have water skins. So I don't know if in this instance I'd want to necessitate drinking water a little bit, either what they brought from them or taking these so that kind of gets that rhythm of okay, you're drinking water, drinking water. Oh, your water skin's empty. You picked one up from the campsite. Do you want to drink from that one? And then, bam, something happens, kind of thing. Blah blah blam. Something happens. Siegfried's Rest. This is wait, hold on. Siegfried's Rest and Gustav's Fall. All right, so Siegfried's Rest is yep. So we're 4 and 5. 4 and 5. That's the one thing I might say. Like, 'cause I really like the layout. Everything's super clean and neat and well organized. But I might have liked putting the numbers next to these for easier reference. So just put Siegfried's Rest 4 or 4, Siegfried's Rest 5, Gustav's Folly. It just would help a little bit when I'm referencing back and forth to do or mark it somewhere, put a little diamond. I don't know. I don't want to try to get into the design part, but just put the numbers in there just to help a little bit. All right, so at Siegfried's Rest, we have an undead skeletal warrior, Sir Siegfried. Here she. I don't know if that's a typo because I think earlier. Whoops, I keep doing that. Whoops. They spelled Sir S-E-R, like kind of Game of Thrones, Sir, but here it's Sir S-I-R. Wearing an embroidered surcoat emblazoned with deer, stands slumped, partially impaled by an ebony spear emblazoned with a black dragon into a tall oak tree. The gray phantom horse stands next to the skeleton, whinnying sadly and scuffing its hooves on the ground. A robin sits on the warrior's helm. That's a really nice visual image there. When the party approaches, Siegfried waves in a friendly manner. Voice, archaic and mannerly, can be heard by the players and has a request assistance in freeing himself from the tree by removing the spear. Sounds easy enough, maybe. The spear is embedded into the tree and can be removed with great physical effort. Those who touch the spear hear undead for the next 4 hours. Okay, so we're noticing this. Maybe this is going to be a trend here of multiple things that are going to trigger that hearing undead because that hearing undead is maybe going to be a little bit of a spur to move on. Certainly, if you're under the influence of the harp like music, you're going to be pushed in, but it does also help kind of in a way guide the players towards the destination. Right. Meta wise, it's like you're going to be kind of pulled towards the destination. Now, as the in the fiction, it might not seem like you want to, might not seem something you want to do. Though you'll probably recognize is like this is probably what happened to those kids. Maybe they just drank from the water skins back at their camp and then were pulled. So you might think like, okay, we're going to need to go there, but you probably want to do it of your own volition. But either way, you're feeling the pull of that tomb. If freed, Siegfried introduces himself as Prince Sebastian's heart companion. He died long ago trying to find the prince after the betrayal. He will provide the tomb location and his steel ring. Warm the ring with the fire and summon Siegfried if the prince is found. Oh, that's kind of cool. And I would hope, if it were me, I definitely want to keep this as something that would, whoops, is something that would, I'd want to have Siegfried as like an ongoing thing. Like if this was a campaign, beginning of a campaign, or somewhere in the campaign, and the party managed to free the prince or find the prince, and I would totally have Siegfried be able to maybe offer up something else with this ring. It seems like a nice thing. Not necessarily in terms of it. Now you have like +1 to combat, but maybe could answer questions. Maybe a little bit of a into the lore of however long ago was the prince's time. Just some useful kind of stuff. It's just kind of it's a nice thing, I think. Maybe there's some now that the prince has been found, maybe there's some way where to take the ring to put Siegfried to rest, and then you could get something else going from that. Then it almost becomes like another adventure. Now, Gustav's Folly, that's the place where Gustav had set up his freelance bog iron smelting business that went amok and ended up burning down the old town. Burnt, crumbling huts lean warily next to a small stream dotted with bog iron. The furnace and well remain largely intact. Burn marks and old ash taint the remaining building walls, along with graffiti and crude carvings boasting of summer trysts. All right, so this is obviously where the teenagers come. Appearance desolate, abandoned, fire damaged structures except the furnace, which stands intact but is rusted. Fire up the furnace, you can smell the lump of bog iron, awakens bog iron constructs. Ooh, I like that. Go to the bottom of the well and you'll find 2d6 old coins and old wishes. That's another little intriguing little piece that just left out there. What is an old wish? What can one do with an old wish? Are these wishes in physical form that you can take with you? Do they infest you with their desires? What happens there? Drinking from the well grants here undead for 2 hours. Specifically, Gustav, the ghost locally, hear his terrible business advice. I like this one. Me like the fact that here again we're continuing the theme with hearing undead, but specifically this well, keep doing that. This whoops, I keep going the wrong way. This well, it's you only get Gustav. So poor Gustav. Terrence says Siegfried. This is a dungeon crawl adaptation of a 4 day long German opera. Not quite. Not quite, Terrence. And then let's see. For the referee, Gustav is intended to be played just like an old surly joker laughing after ragging on the PC who can hear him. That's great. So yeah, so because I think that could be fun because the inference here is that basically one player character will hear him and that's who will keep ragging on, which kind of makes sense because probably one person will drink the water, one player character will drink the water, maybe if anybody drinks it, and everyone else will wait to see if anything happens to that player and then that character, and then when that character starts getting, uh, busted on by old dead Gustav, probably the remaining player characters will then uh, decline the drinking. So Gustav's business advice ranges from "you could be making more money right now" to "there's a market for everything. You should invest in collectible spoons. Now that's some fast money." Or "aren't you embarrassed to smell this bad? Is this even a real job?" Well, that's like every adventurer's parents, I think, right there. And then we have the encounter of the bog iron constructs. They're lumpy looking with crude metal bits, and you can stat as a gelatinous cube. Oh, that's cool. So it's like a gelatinous cube, only it's a bog iron construct. I feel like interesting to stat as a gelatinous cube because I feel like I suppose that anything's possible with magic bog iron constructs, but I feel like they'd be hard. I'd go admit, wouldn't I want to? I think like Earth Elemental or something like that. Though BX Earth Elementals are pretty darn strong, so maybe I'd have to pick something else. We have now here we get our forest encounters if we need. So this is on the unkeyed hexes. I think the one thing is, did I miss it, or we might be using? Maybe there's a default in Cairn, but I haven't gotten a sense of how long and how big these hexes are. Did it say how big they are on the map? I'm not sure. Come on a minute. Where is the map? Where is the map? The map. The map. Oh, let's see. Here we go. Does it say how big the map is? Each hex. Oh, 2 hours travel. Yep, it does. Each hex is 2 hours travel. Okay. So we're not worried about different terrain types. And really, there's only one terrain, which is forest. And so they're 2 hours apiece. So you can, depending on if you're pretty efficient, 2, 4, 6, 8. It'd take you about 10 hours to get to the tomb if you go in a straight line. But might need to rest overnight. But okay, now we got that scale out of the way. So the forest encounters, which we'd roll in the unkeyed hexes, might be a carnivorous oak tree or a fog that rolls in that's full of ghosts, or some bog spiders hiding in moss, or it might just be an unstable bog area. So here we have an environmental kind of hazard. Peat deposits are burning in all directions with explosive sections popping out of the ground at random intervals. Do they return from whence they came or attempt to cross? I probably want to mark that one down so that you have that hex noted, because I don't think that would be a effect that would just come or go. And you might want to roll these in advance so that you can narrate it coming in, as opposed to like you're in the woods and all of a sudden it's like you're in the middle of a bog. Like, whoa, whoa, what happened? Like you kind of, I presume you would see a dangerous burning bog. You might notice that from at least a little bit of distance away. Maybe not that much if it's heavily screened by trees, but certainly when you get to the edge of it, you're probably gonna know it before you're in the middle of it. And then we have a groom blooming with too many flowers. Oh, interesting. Each flower holds water within its bloom. The water smells heavenly. Drinking the flower water renders someone bold beyond reason for 4 hours. I wonder what bold beyond reason is. I guess you just have to just talk with the player to what one player being bold beyond reason is going to mean for them. The adventurers hear a posh voice from the trees yell, "Halt and drop your weapons." Oh, you got a highwayman, the Tannic bandit. I like that. There's a friendly bog witch named Ruth who might show up. And we have a formidable lizard person warrior poet who seeks rivals to prove their worth. They challenges passerbys to words or swords. It's that as a berserker. Nice. And if it's words, she offers a riddle, which I will not answer for spoilers. If you throw a white stone into a red sea, what will happen to it? Mm. And if swords, she fights to first blood, which could mean whatever you want it to mean. I mean, obviously not not going to kill each other, but how much is first blood? Is it your first HP loss? Is it going down to zero? Is it going down like bloodied at half? You decide. You make the call. Now we're on to the bog tomb. Emerging awkwardly from a mossy hill eroded by the nearby creek stands an ironstone mausoleum, wizened with age, pitted with damage, with narrow structural cracks diagonally visible running down the main edifice. Creek water runs down the hill and into the mausoleum in various places. So we've got the entrance. There's a hole on the surface, S1. Where does S1 go to? I don't know. Or maybe, oh, does it go down to the ossuary? Maybe, but we have a nice little map here. So we have the main entrance. We have this chamber with some larger chamber with a couple of outlying chambers. And then we get into a couple of back areas, the mortuary, the ossuary, a shrine, an oubliette. Gotta love an oubliette. And then a drain tunnel. The ground within the tomb is wet and slippery, brown cedar water puddling on uneven, broken stone tiles. Walls are made of stone blocks cut with crude tools, wet and stained with peat and bog water. Moss grows in places, mold in dark, wet corners. Ceilings are 15 feet high. Little natural light makes it glow. Normal wooden doors or wood doors throughout. And then in the main entrance, we've got rough ironstone blocks mortared shut, crumbling. A stone tomb seal that's cracked in half. It's navigable for one person, so one at a time, right? I don't think one person the thing classified. You only got to go in one by one. Inside, it's slightly flooded. It's 1 inch deep. Water flows downstairs to two, and then there's stairs down to two. So I like. So this is kind of definitely from the. I guess I would say I get at this point the kind of OSC Dolmenwood, Gavin Norman, I guess style of descriptions, which is fine. I kind of like having some kind of I don't know if it has to be bullet points necessarily, but I like having, okay, here, give me the at a glance kind of what I need to see about it. So we kind of get that. And so as the GM, we would just have to, I think the one thing is we can't just read it as we go. I suppose you could, but I like to make it at least a little bit more narrative. So I'd want to, read and then talk to the players or maybe pre-read it and have something in my mind when we get there, as opposed to having the text boxes that you can just read aloud. Whew. We have S1, which is the secret entrance. Where does it go? It's not clear where it goes, but maybe it says here. Oh, lower a torch on a rope. Okay, it is the ossuary. Might be nice to have a dotted line or something, or something to show the connection because you have plenty of room here on the map. Just show me that this connects. I mean, you can kind of see it, but still, just tick, 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 tick down there. Make it super clear. Hey, Perkins, welcome aboard. So we have the secret entrance to the north, 25 feet, partially concealed by moss and fallen boughs. There's a narrow crevasse with brown cedar water streaming down. Lower a torch on a rope, and you will reveal the ossuary 40 feet below. It's a difficult, slippery climb, but possible with luck. I suppose, though, if you have the rope and you're not alone, and it's your rope and has been sitting there moldering away, it wouldn't be too slippery. You could presumably tie the rope to the person and then lower them down. That would probably help, right? But if you're by yourself and trying to use the sides of the, I guess there's a tube, or does it open up into? I kind of get the sense it opens into a dome, but I'm not sure. So we have the main chamber, which is this area here, and here we have some italicized sort of text. Faded stone tiles with crude designs of warriors drinking at a table, questing, playing harps and lutes, and other scenes adorn the floor, mostly obscured by tomb water. Tomb water. All the rage nowadays. Perkins says, "Do you like reading text blocks to users? I tend to use my own wording." Yep, and I think if you like that, then the kind of bulleted approach is probably going to work really well because then you'll just do that and then you'll internalize it and create your own read aloud text. And Perkins says sometimes the text block has critical details. Yes, yeah, I. It's interesting. The text blocks, I don't dislike them per se, but they can be difficult to do well because I know they're trying to get this point of view thing across, but then you're given this information, and then if not all the stuff is in there, sometimes the order is weird. like there are orcs in front of the door, but the text is giving us all the layout of the room, and then I'm thinking, I don't think how anyone's gonna see that when you open the door and 5 orcs are right there, and like from the player standpoint, it's like, why am I telling them about all the stuff in the room? And then the last line of the read aloud text is, "There are 5 orcs right at the door waiting for the party as they open it." It's like, well, that's probably should just been number 1 is you open the door and there are 5 orcs standing there. Everything outside those orcs gonna be secondary information or, something like, something like that. And it can be easy to kind of get them twisted. And then what can also often happen with the read aloud text is if I'm doing things dynamically in the dungeon and your read aloud text has to do with some ogre that's there, but I've moved the ogre because I've decided, or maybe it's even written in that the ogre might be wandering, and the ogre's wandering, then the players encounter them and they eliminate the ogre or do something different. The ogre's off the board. Then we get to the ogre's chamber, and it's read aloud text is written as if the ogre's still there. It's like it's not there. And if I don't remember, like, oh, that's the ogre from there, and either had ahead of time crossed it out or remembered, then I'm reading it like the ogre's there, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. And I know it's happened in the past where like the encounters happen, and then I'm like, oh, this was supposed to be the ogre that they already met, so they fought 2 ogres instead of one. Not necessarily a huge deal, but you know, so the read aloud text can be kind of um, not tough, right? But um, I think it's some things that maybe they didn't think about so much originally when they worked that around. They just kind of did it. But Direct Sun says, "I got to mention the chandelier before the orcs." Surely, yeah, of course. I mean, if you know anything, you got to make that chandelier available for some fighter or dwarf to swing on. So yeah, chandeliers of utmost importance. The 10 orcs that are all standing in front of the chandelier, mere decoration. Morgan says that Amanda uses the OSC style pretty well. The layout looks good. It is very clean. Like there's a couple things I could just like just cool with, but I mean really small quibbles. Like just like I said, like giving me a connecting these two things so that they connect, or putting the area number because he's got the hexes numbered, but then put the area numbers here also. But I mean, really, it's a very nice, clean design, and I like the imagery. Everything is well done and neat and tidy. Yeah, as Gary Burnett says, a quantum ogre, you got to fight twice. That's it. Sometimes it can be in 2 places at once. So we have the main chamber. We've got some directions thing. We have a flooded chamber. It's flooded up to boot tops. Nice touch there. Worn tapestries hang on the walls, molded and damaged. A rounded font on the platform to the south. I'm guessing font fountain, not Arial or Wingdings or Courier New. Let's see, carved with motifs of harpists, charming snakes. We're getting this harp. So if we're wondering why harp music, here we're getting more harp motifs. And again, if you drink the tomb water, here undead. So that's going to be continually getting reinforced. And if you do drink the tomb water, then you're compelled to find the harp and obey the harp player. We do have a referee's note here. Prince Sebastian's harp playing can be heard throughout the tomb by any player character under the effect of Here Undead. Those who hear the harp playing are compelled to obey his commands unless they resist. Okay. And this is kind of why, again, I'd want to maybe insert some mechanic about drinking because it's something that, and I don't know if Cairn does this, so someone can remind me, but in BX, generally, we don't tend to worry, like I said before, about drinking stuff unless it's a desert situation. I'm not really, if we're playing in a forest, I'm going to assume that you're drinking water and doing it as normal. And water is usually not hard to find in most forest situations. Water of some sort might not be the water that tastes delicious, but you can usually find something. So I don't, at least in the forest, that come to mind for me. So I wouldn't usually put importance on the water drinking part. But this adventure makes me want to have something about drinking water because I would want to at least put not necessarily compel the players to drink the water, but to make something they might consider. Because oftentimes I can see running this adventure, nobody drinking any water because it doesn't really come up. And whereas I can imagine maybe the font here drinking the water because there's always a player. I've been that way too, wondering like, is this going to be one of those fountains or things that if I drink it, I get +2 permanently to a stat? Right? You never know with the magic fountain. So I might take a flyer on this one. I'm probably going to drink some of these other waters. It already looks oddly colored, not because they're poisoned, but as she says, it's had taken on a tea color from the cedar and everything. But the fact is that other than maybe 1 or 2 instances where I might go, maybe I'll take a risk on this water. I'm probably not going to drink water. I would only drink it if I was prompted by the GM to say like, "Oh, you're getting thirsty," kind of thing. And that since that's usually not something we do a whole lot in these situations, it might come across as being a little bit like, "Why is the GM suddenly forcing us to drink all the time?" So I'd almost want this is making me want to come up with okay, maybe we need to come up with like you have to spend a certain amount of time drinking and actually watching that resource more carefully. At least I don't, folks. You can tell me if you guys are kind of hardcore with your water skin usage, but in my experience, it's usually just that you have a water skin, and then your water skin, again, unless you're in a desert or something like that, it kind of acts as a never-ending, or just a supply of water you're just refilling when you can, and you're not really worrying about how much you have left of it. Um, Perkins says, "Here Undead would be creepy to roleplay. As a GM, I wouldn't necessarily explain why the PC hears Undead and ask what would they hear." Well, Perkins, several times there's a few things. So there's multiple undead in the forest leading up to here, and there's also this harp playing and the prince. And so you're going to hear all that stuff. So they've been kind of reinforcing it, which is kind of cool through this as you're moving through this forest. You're encountering water, and if you drink the water, you will hear stuff. You hear stuff leading yourself to the tomb. There's one kind of funny part. What is it? Gustav, the sort of the dead businessman ghost or spirit, and he'll be yapping at you if you can hear undead. So she's built that up in terms of this theme of water to hearing undead and to having these different undead things going on. The main one being here in the tomb. So you hear the harp playing, you have to obey the harp player, but then earlier on in the forest, you'll also have interactions with undead that trigger because you can hear them, which is another neat kind of concept. Okay, we have some side chambers. We have an old curved dagger with one of them, but not given a gold piece value. But there's some loot. There's a snake bejeweled gold bracelet on a wrist. I'm curious why she didn't give them values, or maybe we're not. Presumably, maybe you're not encouraged to steal them or take them. Not sure. Terrence says somebody left the space heaters on. You're really drying out. Save versus big sip. Yeah. You're feeling parched. You know, all your rations are too salty. All the rations you bought in town are ridiculously salty. So now save or drink. Yeah, it would almost be fun if there was another mechanism that kind of did that, that sort of pushed you to drink, so that there was a little bit of like you might get pushed to drink, but not drink. Maybe you drink, but like I said, I really like that it has that effect. I would just want to not necessarily railroad the players into drinking stuff, but we just again, I just not a mechanism that I think happens too often outside of specific kind of edge cases. We got the mortuary. There's a drain gate. We got some broken crates. And you can lift the drain gate and go down a 40-foot tunnel to the oubliette. There's the drain tunnel. Whee! Goes down there. And we have the ossuary, which has multiple ways of entering. There's a skull pillar, 15 feet tall, surrounded by brown water, 5 foot deep at the center, 2 feet deep on the room edges. Gold and metal glint from the skull pillar. In the pool, beautiful faces that occasionally turn skeletal. Ooh, that's creepy. Faces move their mouths, but the party cannot hear them unless you've got here undead. Chalices, both precious metal and rusted, lie under the water. Climb the skull pillar. I'm not sure why one would want to climb the skull pillar, but I suppose someone will do it. The pillar is precarious, water damaged, will make loud warning cracks if this is attempted. If climbed above 10 feet, the pillar collapses. All right, so you probably don't want to climb the pillar, but that's what happens if you do. If you speak to the faces, nearby chalices will fill with a green glow. I don't know if that would encourage me or discourage me. And then you can drink the tomb water. There's always tomb water to drink. Why? Why? I'm not sure. Though maybe if someone is I wonder if that would be something like the prince would command you to try to get the other players to drink the tomb water. So maybe you want to, because here you have these people, and if some people are compelled or have here undead and they're getting in these conversations, you might want to drink the tomb water to get in on it too. It's unclear if there is that there's a really good advantage to the tomb water bit other than being able to be compelled by the prince. D6 undead complaints. Oh, this is nice. Alas, the harp playing hath not stopped for eons. 'Tis unfortunate, the leaking and the dripping. Those youth opened the sarcophagi. And then, some general squabbling between different undead over ancient perceived slights. This is great. I love it. Then you have the shrine, pooled old wax, rotted hymnals, and stone altar that's mold covered. There's a family testament book that's been burned. Inside the family testament book contains a family tree listing Prince Sebastian of Tannic as the last scion of the line. On the southern wall, there's some mortared stones in a similar manner to the tomb entrance, visibly crumbling and precarious. Rivulets of water creating broken grout and pooling in crevices. You push the stones, they collapse with effort, revealing the oubliette, which you could also get to from another direction. And then we could get the turn to the next page, like a choose your own adventure. Turn to the next page for the oubliette situation. And what is the oubliette situation? Prince Sebastian casually strums an old tuneless harp. Well, it's not tuneless to the people that can hear it. Flora and Osric, wearing grave clothes, bearing rusty weapons, stand 3 feet deep water. They speak with Prince Sebastian using antiquated language of deeds and hunts. Whenever Prince Sebastian stops playing the harp to talk, Flora and Osric seem to resurface from a dream, terrified. Prince Sebastian is confused and believes them to be his companions of old. He does not have a malicious intent. He will turn violent if the youths leave without a compelling reason. He can be reasoned with, but it requires validating his worldview and gentle reality grounding. Oh, this is great. So he needs a little bit of kind of a therapeutic touch, Prince Sebastian. So you can try to resist the harp song, and we'll get to that in a second. Break the harp. That will break the spell's hold over the young people. Prince Sebastian is temporarily disoriented. You could collapse the ceiling. That's risky. Could drown or crush everyone. You could fight Prince Sebastian. Flora, Osric, and any player characters under the Here Undead effect will attack if they are still under the harp spell. So you want to be careful with that one. If the party helped Siegfried, they can summon him here to distract Prince Sebastian. Okay, so then there's another kind of nice thing, right? If you, I don't remember if Siegfried tells you about the ring, but if you recall, you could put the ring in fire, I think, and it'll bring Siegfried forth. And Siegfried was one of Sebastian's close companions. So you can do that. Now we have a note here on ending the quest. If the party successfully returns the young people to town, the village elders provide them with 600 gold pieces, profits from the festival's first weekend, and a rare relic, the Whaler's Lodestone. And what is the Whaler's Lodestone, you ask? Well, let me tell you. It is a humble magnetic stone carved into a sperm whale. When suspended in salt water, it points towards the nearest, safest place or harbor within 6 miles. Recharged by boiling in oil. Well, there you go. Pretty handy if you're going to do a coastal, maybe oceanic type adventure or campaign. Parent says, "Oh, I got it. The party frees a fairy from a bottle, and she rewards them by changing the contents of their water skins from water to sweetened condensed milk as a treat. Sweetened condensed milk. I'd take it. I drink enough bubble teas and to keep some sweetened condensed milk on hand. I would love a small bottle of unending sweetened condensed milk. We get some stat blocks. I'm not going to read through the stat blocks, right? And I just want the one thing I want out of this is what is the, and we get for OSC, we get Cairn and OSC. Where was the, hold on a minute. Where was the Here Undead effect? 24 to 25 harp song. Where's the harp song? What? Did we miss the harp song? Maybe that was moved. They have Prince Sebastian. Oh, it's here actually. I see. I think what happened is the spell numbers. She needs to update the spell numbers, I would guess. I imagine it meant 23, 24 harp song, not 24, 25. So anyone who hears the harp song of Prince Sebastian must save her spells or be charmed. Move toward Prince Sebastian, resisting those who try to prevent it. Defend Prince Sebastian. Obey Prince Sebastian's commands. They're unable to cast spells or use magic items. They're unable to harm Prince Sebastian. A character who saves is unaffected for the rest of the encounter. Killing Prince Sebastian or destroying his harp breaks the charm. I mean, this is really nice. So that is the end of the quest. Then we get in the yield OGL. It's really good. I mean, there's nothing I could add. I mean, the only things I could think of, like, is there anything I would want to add here? Is I think, and this is not, I don't even want to do this as like, this is a negative because it's not, because you get this really nice self-contained quest. A couple things that would be really that I could think is I want to think about. If I was going to run this, one of the things I want to think about is like I said before, I like the concept of what happens with what do you do with Siegfried, who seems to be connected to this ring. Either I would have the ring and Prince Sebastian be more of if not just that Siegfried distracts the prince, but that maybe like they help each other get to the light or something. Because that would kind of tie the ribbon, right? Of what's happening. If it is the fact that Prince Sebastian is gonna be still sort of attached to this ring after Prince Sebastian presumably has gone whatever's happened with him has happened, then I feel like that's another kind of thing to do. And I think that it would be interesting to look at and say, well, we could take that somewhere, which is good. It gives you like a hook going forward. Yeah, I'd be kind of curious. It's like, well, what would would Amanda has Amanda ever taken that somewhere? Like, maybe what would she envision doing that? And the other thing is that, well, you're kind of left in this position where you have to sort of destroy Prince Sebastian or do something else to him or kind of talk him down. But there's seems to me in my mind that there's another level here again, or another phase, which is maybe you stop this thing from happening. But Prince Sebastian is still this kind of spirit in need. And now we have the story as overarching kind of history of this kingdom that was destroyed, him being the last heir who's destroyed. I feel like you could do more with that going forward. Like this could be a really just the first step into something, a campaign that is exploring this old kingdom. How does it maybe there's some more about how this kingdom relates to Tannic, the new town, the current town. How does that relate? Okay, so now Prince Sebastian's not playing his harp, that you've stopped that part, but he's still this kind of spirit that's fixed, it hasn't gone up into the light, hasn't given up its thing. So maybe what's the next part? Like what could it do? What can it maybe Prince Sebastian would be like, if you can undo this wrong from long ago or do something, whatever, then I can be free. And maybe there's something in it for you. Like there's some, it's gotta be more, right? There's gotta be more ruins, there's gotta be more treasures, there's gotta be more all kinds of stuff. Maybe you can do something, maybe that spear that we took out of the Gustav, like is that something? It had a symbol of a black dragon on it. Like there's a lot of nice little hooks here. I'm almost like I think that for a new GM, I think it would have been nice if like call some of these out and saying, "Hey, feel free to do something with this." Right? Obviously, if you're more experienced, you'll just pick up on it yourself. Like, "Ooh, what is this? Who had a black ash spear with this dragon? Like, I want to know who that is." And I could definitely see players pulling that spear up. Like, I'm going to hold on to this. I'm going to go to the nearest sage, find out more about this. And clearly, there's this whole kingdom that used to be here. Got to be more good stuff besides this one kid's burial spot. So, really nice little adventure. Maybe one session, maybe two, depending on how kind of into it they get. But then lots of open angles to take it further if you still want to. I might want to just like I said, I don't remember in Cairn, but think about water because I think water kind of plays an important role here. But it's the one thing where I'm like, I just don't know if players are going to really interact with the water because they just doesn't tend to come up. I got some, and you're only going. I mean, and the thing is, you could conceivably get from the village to the tomb in a day, so you don't even necessarily have a reason to ever refill your water. If you're pretty efficient and you have a couple of water skins, there's no that you filled up in town or you had from before. There's kind of no reason to drink the water, but drinking the water seems to be pretty important. And it doesn't seem like there's a way for people to know about the water unless someone drinks the water. So I'd kind of want to figure out something where you drink. You're either more of a temptation or more of a reason to prompt the players to drink something and track that resource. So they might have reason to fill their water locally or take the water from the kids' camp, something like that. Not that the adventure's unusable if you don't do that, but I think it helps a lot and adds. I think it had some nice character to it, so I'd want to kind of integrate that better. Perkins says it does seem well put together. I like quests that can be dropped into existing campaign without much fuss. Totally, you just need some woods and a shore. But you could probably even if you didn't have the shore, you could probably do without it because yeah, that's the only really you know you've got there's water here. I think yeah, this is the shoreline. I have some reason I'm just thinking Maine, kind of coastline of Maine, where it's got sort of heavy, um, like, pine woods, but you're on sort of a shoreline. I think the village is on the shoreline, or maybe this. I don't know how it comes down here, but yeah, you just really just need shoreline and woods. But again, if you had to do without the shoreline, you probably could without too much fuss. And then these are only 2 miles. So this is maybe what? Maybe you look at this and say it's only a couple of 6 mile hexes. If you were to take these, if maybe you'd look at it and say three hexes across with 6 miles, you're looking at two 6 mile hexes. So you can kind of, yeah, drop that anywhere. You got some kind of mountainous terrain to the north, water to the south, but it's pretty flexible. And you could probably rearrange this a little bit to suit. So yeah, really easy, 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 easy peasy. Really well done. Very, very well done. Um, I don't think I have too much else to say about it. That is Tannic. Point crawl. I'm not sure why she calls it a point crawl. It's a hex crawl to me. Obviously, you'd be leaning on either using Cairn or presumably BX/OSC for your hex crawling procedures. There's not too, you can't really get too lost, and that's would probably be, it's not really the point of the adventure. Aha, point. Well, I don't know if I call it a point crawl. You do have choices. There are. I think certainly you could follow the clues, which would make it a point crawl going from here to the camp. From the camp, you follow this to there, but I feel like that just makes sense. Whether you're doing a hex crawl, technically a hex crawl or a point crawl, doesn't matter. But it's a forest adventure, absolutely, and I like it a lot. And thanks again to Amanda P for sending it my way. It's on Itch, is what I linked to. She also has physical copies. This one looks like, I see it's got Exalted Funeral on there, so presumably you can get it at Exalted Funeral if you like the physical one. And it's a very nice. Obviously, we've seen the layout. Very nice put together package, and I guess that what did we say? A5 format, whatever the zine format. It's the same size as Cairn physically, and Morkborg, basically, more or less. What size is Morkborg? I don't know. I got Morkborg right here. About the same size for scale. Let me back it up. Same size, more or less. Dave S. They have a hex map. How is it a point crawl? I think because you can kind of go from point to point. I think because you can kind of go bang, 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 bang. But yeah, I'm not sure why she calls it a point crawl. To me, it is clearly a hex crawl. It's even got the hexes. We've got procedures for what to do in the unkeyed hexes. You definitely have that freedom to go other places. So I'm not sure. I'd have to ask her. If I get to talk to her, I will ask her. Either way, good stuff. And it is, just to close the circle on this, it is $7 on Itch, and it looks like the back of the zine, it looks like $12 for the physical printed edition. Presumably on Exalted Funeral, you could probably buy it as a package if you want the physical one. Whew. All right, folks. Well, that is all I've got. Thanks again to Amanda P. This was a really great read. It's a really nice little adventure. Dave says 10 people watching, but only one thumbs up. I know, you can't account for people. No, you guys are all great. Yeah, if you give a thumbs up on your way out, that would be awesome. Hey, if you find one of these videos is valuable to you, feel free to share it with your friends or your enemies as as a final thing before you unfriend them. Send them one of the videos. I'll take it. I'll take a hate watch. Uh, have a good rest of your day, night, whenever you end up watching or listening. This, everybody. Game on, and I will talk to you later. Bye now.